Hello and welcome to the tutorial on how to use the Perspective tool in Adobe Illustrator to create objects with cool 3D cutaways, just as I've done here. You'll need to start with a simple 3D box, which we've done in previous tutorials. Once you're here, activate the Perspective Grid tool by either clicking Control-Shift-I or simply clicking on the Perspective Grid tool button. Here's mine. Now, if you'll look over here, this is my first cutaway. It's almost like a doorway, and it appears to be right in the middle of this left face. I know I want to be working with this left face first, so when I select my rectangle tool, I have to make sure to go up here to my little grid icon and select the left grid icon. I want to cut it away exactly in the middle, and that's where it's actually nice to have this grid because I can count 1, 2, 3 boxes in from each side. 1, 2, 3. So that I know I'm exactly 3 boxes from the top, 3 boxes from each side. Okay, there's my square. It's a light gray color. I'm going to change it to a brown color so that it is really obvious which is the square that I've added. Once again, it is in perspective because I have the Perspective Grid tool activated. I'm going to take it, stretch it down just a touch below the edge of this rectangle. And we're going to use the Pathfinder tool once more to remove this shape out of the gray box face. Would you please go to Window and Pathfinder? All right, what we're going to want to do is this second shape mode, Remove Front. So I need to select both this brown object and the gray face behind it. When they're both selected, I should be able to click Remove Front, and there we go, it deletes. Okay, we're partway there. So now what I need to do is add some thickness so that this looks like a thick leg right there. And I'm going to do that by creating a small, tall, skinny rectangle on the right grid plane. Do you see how the right grid has orange lines going all the way back to this vanishing point? Well, that's the vanishing point that I'm going to want to use when I do this second face. You see how that line back there goes all the way back to that vanishing point? Before you start to do this, it is good to have a strong concept of 2-point perspective so you don't get too confused at this step. All right, I'm going to select my right grid. I'd like to choose a brown color again so that I know the new one that I'm creating. I'm going to go right down here to the very bottom point anchor, and here I can create my rectangle. I can make it 3 squares just like this one is. I can make it a little thinner. I can make it 2 squares. I think I'll go ahead and make it 3 squares so that it ends up looking like a sort of a square, like a square bottomed leg, almost of a table. There it is. I went all the way up to the top so that there's no white poking through here. And it doesn't look quite right yet. That's because we have this line which is fooling our eye. So what we have to do is right click, arrange, and we're going to send it to the back. Once we do that and we make the grid go away for a second, suddenly that perspective totally makes sense. All right, I'd like my grid back. I'm going to go over here and do the exact same thing. Rectangle, make sure it's on the right side. It's the right grid, which is correct. I want to cut that out of this side. I'm going to go all the way down here to the bottom. 3 from the top, 3 from the sides, and release. Select your selection tool, extend it just a little bit below the bottom of your initial rectangle. Select both objects and remove front. Okay, at this point, do you see the difference between this one, in which we have cut away a flat area, and this one in which we have created the illusion of depth? It's as if this leg here has depth and this one is paper thin. All right, I know that I want this next surface to follow those green lines, follow those blue lines all the way back to that perspective point. So I'm going to click Rectangle, Left Grid, choose a color that I like, go all the way down to that tippy corner, and I'm going to count over 1, 2, 3 grid marks. There's 3. And up, up, up I go, all the way past. I can go really high just to make sure there's not accidentally a little white spot off in that corner. And my last step is to right-click, arrange, and send to back. Okay, I'm at a pretty good point right now. It looks like I have convincing cutaways. Now I just need to get rid of my grid and make my colors make sense. I'm going to select this one. Because it's the same direction as this face, I want it to be the same color. So I'm going to use my eyedropper tool and click on that color to steal it. Here we go. This brown face is facing the same direction as this medium gray face. So I'm going to select my eyedropper, select that medium gray, and there we go. You can play around with all sorts of different values. So that is the basics of how to create cutaways using the perspective tool.